Today we're going to talk about the unexpected hurdles that you're going to face during a no contact rule. Now, a few weeks ago on our Instagram page, we decided to start polling our audience and ask them questions about what they're struggling with the most during the no contact rule. And after the weeks went on, we got hundreds of different responses. And what we did is we took each one of those responses and kind of labeled them from matter of most important to least important. So what I'd like to do today is talk about some of the biggest things that we noticed you are struggling with during the no contact rule and provide you with some answers on how to handle those things. But first things first, if you haven't already, make sure you stop everything you're doing and take our X Recovery Chances quiz. It's a simple 2-minute quiz designed to basically tell you what kind of chance you have of getting your ex back. Now, all you have to do if you want to take this quiz is simply look in the description link below this YouTube video and click on it. It's that simple. Now, during no contact, unexpected hurdles will appear at every turn. Luckily for you, we started a discussion on Instagram by asking for your top 5 hurdles a few weeks ago, and you guys did not let us down with your responses. So this week, we're going to talk about why these hurdles happen and how to handle them like a pro. So the graphic you see here are our final results. And what I'd like to do today is talk about each one of these hurdles that appear and what you should be doing about them. And what I'm going to do, instead of just following them down the line from left to right, I'm going to take the most frequent hurdles all the way down to the least frequent hurdles. All right, let's just cut right to the chase and begin. Hurdle number 1, lacking emotional control. This is where you're still mad, hurt, whatever, or you feel the need to voice that emotion or see if your ex is hurting on the same level you are. Now, often you'll hear me talk about the no contact rule and many reasons it works. And I'll talk about these theories of reactance. Now, reactance is this theory that basically states if you take a behavioral freedom away from a person, they're going to react in a way to try to get that freedom back. But what we don't really pay attention to is how it can also impact ourselves. So yes, we're taking the behavioral freedom of your ex talking to you away via the no contact rule. But in an odd way, you're taking your own behavioral freedom away of talking to your ex. Or this can even make your emotions go kind of haywire because you want to talk to your ex so badly. Now, one of the things that we talk a lot about on ex-boyfriend recovery and even our other flagship website, ex-girlfriend recovery, is having emotional control during this very difficult time. And the best piece of advice I have for you is simply to look at your specific situation with your ex and try to find something that is more important to you than it. And if you can't think of anything, well, that tells you what you need to be doing right here, right now. Find something more important or more powerful to you so you can almost obsess about that as opposed to obsessing about your ex. Hurdle number 2, your mindset. Now, this is pretty simple. It's a general unwillingness to believe that it is possible to be successful. Negative thoughts overriding reason or driving you to break the no contact rule or give up. Essentially, this can be summed up with one simple phrase: this isn't going to work. Now, oftentimes what I would love to tell you is that the no contact rule can work no matter what situation you find yourself in, but that's simply not true. In fact, to make even matters more complicated, a lot of times the no contact rule can be working, but your ex is so prideful, they're not going to show any of the classic signs that it is working. In fact, a recent poll in our Facebook group actually determined that 60% of exes will not respond or reach out to you during the no contact rule. And yet in 95% of our success stories in that same Facebook group, the no contact rule was used in some way, shape, or form. So what does this tell us? Well, it tells us that even if your ex isn't responding to you or isn't reaching out to you or basically worshiping the ground you walk on, it doesn't mean that the no contact rule isn't working. It's just important for you to have a little bit of faith and see it through to the end. Because in the end, the no contact rule is not really about your ex, it's about you. Hurdle number 3, self-discipline. Now, this is just a general lack of follow-through on the no contact. Basically not being able to hold yourself accountable and breaking it early. So when we started this poll, I would personally think that this would be the #1 hurdle people face, because I have estimated that about 80% of people who attempt a no contact rule will not complete it their first time around. They'll break it in some way, shape, or form because they'll construct these realities in their head that make it okay to break the no contact rule early when they really shouldn't. It takes a lot of discipline and self-control when you're in the middle of a no contact rule, but that is why it is so important for you to find something more important to focus on as opposed to your ex. There's no getting rid of the constant thoughts that you're going to be having after a breakup, where you're constantly obsessing about that person. You're thinking about, what are they doing? Who are they with? Are they with some other girl? Fear can kind of take hold of you and allow you to just sort of feel like you need to take a shot a little bit earlier than is necessary. But again, it's important for you to have self-discipline. Now, how do you have self-discipline? I think in the end, it's a matter of finding a way to hold yourself accountable. So how do you do that? Well, probably the best advice I can think of is actually getting rid of your ex's phone number. So essentially, here's how this works. You either block your ex and erase his number and give it to a trusted friend who will then give it to you after the no contact rule is complete. Or if you feel like you have a little bit more self-discipline than having to go to that extreme, you simply change your ex's name on your phone to do not contact. Therefore, it's like an extra reminder before you fall into the depths of breaking the no contact rule. And the final thing I would recommend for you to do if you need self-discipline to not break it early is every single time that you feel this need to break the no contact rule, come by our private Facebook group and allow the members there to kind of talk you out of it and hold you accountable that way. Hurdle number 4, the grass is greener syndrome. This one is pretty straightforward. Either your ex sees the potential for a mate in someone else or several someone else's, or they already found someone else and have already started a new relationship with them. Breakups in general are essentially your ex admitting that they think they can do better than you. This, in and of itself, is the grass is greener syndrome. They're with you for a certain amount of time, and they think, the grass must be greener on that other side. And sometimes we've found it's important to let them experience that other side, because then they'll realize how good they had it with you. And the really difficult part for people to wrap their minds around is, well, why should I let my ex be with someone else? Well, you don't want to let your ex be with someone else, but if that's what it takes for them to have the epiphany, then it's a good thing. But you need to be doing something while they're doing that. That's why we came up with the being there method. We essentially learned that if you purposely friend zone yourself while your ex has a new girlfriend, the new girlfriend will get intimidated and kind of self-sabotage the relationship herself. And oftentimes, if you can get deep enough into a conversation with your ex while he's with that new girlfriend, he'll start to rely on you for emotional support and be drawn back to you. Now, this is a little bit of a morally gray type of a strategy, so I wouldn't recommend it for every single person. It just kind of is, do you have the morals or do your morals align with it? But we have found that it's extremely effective. So we have weaponry for you even if your ex moves on to someone else. Hurdle number 5, your ex's emotion. This is basically where your ex has flat out told you that they never want to see or speak to you again, and essentially made the breakup seem finite. For a lot of women and even men, this is the most terrifying thing or hurdle to overcome. One thing that I've learned is to really try to understand what your ex's mindset is when they mutter these phrases. Oftentimes they're muttering these type of phrases right at the end of the relationship during the most emotional points, and this is the hardest thing for people to wrap their minds around. They really do mean it. But that doesn't mean that they're going to mean it in 3 months, 6 months, or a year down the road. What you need to understand though is you need to create a new foundation upon which a new relationship can be built, so that they look at you in a whole new way and they're not feeling like they've peeled back all the layers and understand who you are to the depths of your soul. Now, I would challenge you to actually go to the success story playlist on our YouTube channel and watch the success stories. Many of those success stories, I will literally quiz them about this exact concept, where their ex says, I hate you, or I don't want you anymore, or we're never getting back together. And I get their take on it after they've gotten their exes back. So you can actually see in real life what the frame of mind is of a man or a woman who says this thing. Hurdle number 6. You've been blocked or disconnected. I don't think I need to spell this one out too much, but basically this is where you've been blocked on social media, on the phone, or by email. Some people have been blocked on literally every single front. So here's what I'd like to let you in on. In most cases where you've been blocked, you need to understand it's a purely emotional response that an ex will have, almost like a knee-jerk reaction to the breakup. Sometimes they get it in their heads that they need to block you just because they need to block you. But really, the best kind of way of overcoming being blocked is to simply do nothing, to wait and find something better to do with your time than obsess about them, because we find that in most cases your ex will actually unblock you because they will get so curious to find out what you're up to. Now, there are those cases where you've been blocked in seemingly every single way imaginable, and in those specific cases I like to call them a hard block. But usually those are rarer than soft blocks, where you've been blocked in most ways but you still have a few areas in which you can communicate with your ex. But let's take the worst case scenario. What do you do if you're in a hard block? That's a great question. We've found in most cases, like I said, your ex will unblock you in some way, shape, or form. But one of the most clever strategies I've ever heard of, I cannot take credit for. This is essentially the, oh, I broke my phone and had to change my number point of view. So essentially what you do is you get a new phone, and this is really, I would say, a last case scenario, and honestly not something I'd recommend to the average person, because oftentimes people just jump the gun and do this too early. But let's say that you drop your phone, or you decide you're going to get a new phone because it's time to upgrade, and you're going to get a new number with that phone. What you're going to do with that new number is send out a mass text to every single person on your contact list saying, hey, I dropped my phone. Sorry, this is my new number. This allows you to have or bridge some type of communication. But again, it's kind of 50-50 too, because if your ex gets this masked text from you basically saying, hey, here's my new number, there is a pretty good likelihood that they will block you. I'd say it's about 50-50. So it's kind of a use at your own behest type of a situation, but we found that that is probably the best way around a hard block. But oftentimes, if a hard block has been instituted on you, there's a reason and you have some work to do. Hurdle number 7, you were unprepared. This is basically where you were blindsided by the breakup, don't really have a lot of understanding as to why it happened. So have you ever heard my wavelength theory? So basically here's the idea I've been coming up with for the past few years. I believe that people sort of speak and communicate on different wavelengths. This is why you're unprepared when a breakup happens, or why you are blindsided when a breakup happens. You're speaking on a certain wavelength and your ex is speaking on a different type of wavelength. Now, ideally, you want those wavelengths in harmony. You want to be speaking and understanding each other through your own point of view and through their point of view. It kind of boils down to empathy and listening. When your ex has broken up with you and it came out of the blue to you, that tells me that you think you're listening to what your ex is saying throughout your relationship when you're really not. In other words, you're on a different wavelength. So here's my challenge to you. During the no contact rule, as opposed to just sitting around feeling sorry for yourself and not bettering yourself in any way, shape, or form, I would challenge you to sit down and actually look back at your relationship and think about the aspects of your relationship that maybe you were on a different wavelength. So I'll give you a prime example of how people can be on different wavelengths. Let's say that you're pushing your ex to go ring shopping. You want one of these because you want to get married, right? Your ex is very hesitant towards that, but decides he's just going to take you to kind of appease you. Now you take this act as sort of a declaration of undying love in which he is going to propose to you. But what you're not really seeing there is that hesitation at the beginning. He really didn't want to do it and just did it because he thinks it's going to kind of hold you over. Yet you're entering into the circumstance thinking he's going to propose in a few months. Thereby, you're now on different wavelengths. So what you're looking for are kind of aspects of your relationship that went like this. Anything that he or she was sort of hesitant about, that you just decided to ignore. That's what I want you to focus on, because that's some of the stuff, if you're going to get them back, that you're going to have to address. Hurdle number 8. Time has passed since the breakup. This is basically where you either have put off an attempt to get your ex back because you didn't think it was possible, or tried other forms of getting your ex back. In other words, you're scared. You're scared because so much time has passed that you feel like you've lost your shot. And I'm not gonna lie to you here, timing does matter throughout this entire circumstance. We see consistently that the longer you are removed from your breakup, the less your chances kind of become. Now, is it the be-all, end-all? Absolutely not. We have seen multiple times where couples who have been years apart do get back together, but I will say that it's a lot more difficult in those circumstances, and I'm not really sure what else to say to appease you in this specific hurdle other than timing does matter. Now, where does that timing start to really impact? I would say if you broke up a year ago and you're just now trying a no contact rule, the no contact rule is going to be less effective as opposed to you just doing it immediately right off the bat. But I will say if it's been 3 or 4 months since your breakup and you decide to do a no contact rule, you're fine. So don't worry too much. Hurdle number 9, rumination. This is where you're so focused on dwelling on the past, either the good times or the bad times, that you don't necessarily make the necessary moves that you need to make. So, for the women who are on ex-boyfriend recovery and learn about the no contact rule or by the ex-boyfriend recovery program, they'll learn about this concept I call becoming ungettable. So essentially for males, we often have the alpha male. You know, all the females are attracted to the apex predator. Well, for females, the ungettable girl is essentially that apex predator that you're aspiring to constantly. Now, oftentimes you'll come to our Facebook group and you'll see people talking about UG. What is this a UG thing to post, or is this a UG type of act? This is the mindset that you need to have during the no contact rule. So a lot of times when people aren't doing the things that they need to be doing during the no contact rule, what we're saying is you're not doing anything to make yourself into an ungettable girl. Because we all know that men want what they can't have. So what is more attractive to a man than anything else? The ultimate woman that he can't have. So here's my challenge to you. What are you doing that makes you ungettable during your no contact rule? Because if you're not doing anything, you're not doing the no contact rule correctly. Hurdle number 10, external difficulties. This is where maybe your parents, friends, family that don't really support the relationship or understand the desire to re-establish the relationship come into play. Here we basically have our sphere of influence. So what do I mean by that? I have posited a long time ago that every single person in every single relationship has what they call a sphere of influence, the people that they surround themselves with whose opinion really matters to them. Now, what do I mean by this? Well, let's say you have friends and family whose opinion you really do care about. But what happens when those friends and family do not support you getting your ex back? I mean, it's pretty common for your friends to kind of jump on board the hate train of your ex. He broke up with you, nothing's worse than a woman scorned, that whole type of mentality. But is that the most necessary type of behavior or vibes you want to be getting from friends or family? I mean, what do you do when they're completely unhelpful at all and actually make no contact impossible because they're like, well, why are you doing that? You should just be getting over them. Here's my best piece of advice to you. You need to find or surround yourself with individuals who are going through exactly what you're going through. Now, everyone who gets my program, and this isn't a program pitch, this is just simply truth. Everyone who gets my program gets access to the ex-boyfriend recovery Facebook group. There's thousands of individuals in there who are going through exactly what you're going through, and what you're going to find is it kind of creates this sisterhood or this brotherhood of individuals who really are able to buckle down and help each other out in all ways, shapes, or forms. In other words, they're not going to be detrimental to your success. Hurdle number 11, distance. Now, we all know long distance relationships or moving apart can have a big impact on a breakup. How do you do a no contact rule if you've broken up because of long distance or because of moving apart? Can it even be effective? Well, we still find that in cases like that, you still need to do a no contact rule, and yes, it can still be incredibly effective. In fact, I think the number one mistake that women fall into when they are broken up because of a long distance relationship is putting a timeline on fixing things, especially like if you have an ex who's going or getting deployed in the army, you feel like you have to get them back right before they deploy. But what we're telling you is that's never the smart thing to do. You should never put a time frame on how long it will take to get your ex back. You just need to accept the fact that you need to go into a no contact rule, and it's going to take a little bit longer than average to successfully recover that relationship. Again, there's nothing really out of the ordinary you need to do here. You just need to kind of accept the fact that, yes, it's going to take longer, and embrace that fact. Hurdle number 12, cheating. Now, mostly this was if you cheated and your ex said there was no way to get past it. But there were a couple of exes who were trying to get their exes back who cheated on them. So essentially, I think people struggle with doing a no contact rule in these specific circumstances because they feel like they just need to fix everything as soon as possible. And what I'm here to tell you is, if you broke your ex's trust, if you cheated on your ex, this isn't the type of thing that's going to just get fixed in a day. You're just not going to be able to get into a conversation with your ex immediately and fix it right off the bat. It's going to take time and energy, and you're going to have to be willing to commit yourself to the process. And I'm not going to lie to you. And 9 times out of 10, most people aren't willing to commit themselves to the process because guess what? It takes a long time to rebuild that trust. What's also important to understand here are the different reasons between why men cheat and women cheat. Now, most of the times what we're finding is that when men cheat, they can still be in love with the person that they cheated on or cheated on with. You get what I'm saying. So basically what we're saying is men often cheat more for being horny reasons, and women, when they cheat, they're often checked out of the relationship entirely. Now, what's interesting too is, a counter argument to that is we found that our clients sometimes will come to us and they will be the ones who cheated on their ex, and they'll still want their ex back incredibly. So what's going on here? I mean, we have two conflicting ideas because we're finding that on average, most women cheat when they're completely checked out of the relationship. And yet sometimes we're getting women that come to us that want their exes back despite the fact that they're checked out of the relationship. So here's my challenge to you. If you cheated on your ex because you were completely checked out of the relationship, or they weren't giving you something that you felt you deserved to have, I think you should reevaluate that relationship as a whole and really determine if that person's worth getting back. There was a reason you cheated, and what I would do if I was coaching you is dive down deep into the real reason you cheated, because if they're not providing something that you absolutely need in a relationship, I hate to break it to you, but maybe that will change a little bit if you get them back, but eventually they will get back to their old ways, and they're not going to provide that essential thing you need, which is going to make you want to cheat again. So that's that hurdle. So that was an extremely long video, but I hope it allowed you to gain some clarity on the many struggles that you're having during the no contact rule, and some little quick tidbits on what you should be doing about those struggles. Again, if you haven't already, make sure you stop everything you're doing and take the X Recovery Chances quiz that I talked about at the beginning of this video. All you have to do is simply look at the description link below this YouTube video and click on it. Also, if you haven't liked, commented, or subscribed to the YouTube channel, please do so. We're up to 50,000 subscribers now, which is really awesome. The next goal for us to hit is 100,000, so hopefully we can make a strong push to get there in the next year or so. And I just want to say thank you so much. I'll see you next time.